The next generation of Manitoba composers will be showcasing their works later on this week. Students of Canadian Mennonite University's Composition Studies concentration will be presenting their latest works on Wednesday morning in the school's Laudamus Auditorium, a valuable chance for students to explore what their music says and how they want to use their musical voices. Keira Medina and Buchanan are two of the composers who will be featured. Both join me in the Classic 107 studios this morning. Hello, you two.
Hi.
Hello.
Well, first of all, maybe we'll start with you, Keira. Tell us about the kind of music that you create. I know every composer's favorite question. Tell me about your work and try to encompass it all into your words.
Well, my work actually started in high school when I pretty much accidentally composed my first original pop song, just like piano and singing. And I was like, okay, well, I composed a song, so now what? I want to compose more. So I continued to practice songwriting all throughout high school. And when I got to university, I was very fortunate to be in an environment full of classical performers and watching many, many pianists showcase their works and other composers' works. I was inspired to compose piano music, which happened very unexpectedly. I actually went into composition studies thinking that I was going to make silly choir arrangements of silly songs. It was the exact opposite.
Wow.
I just so happened to compose piano pieces when I least expected it.
That is an absolutely fascinating trajectory, going from pop songs and arranging pieces to then writing works inspired by your more classically inclined classmates. What a fascinating path that is. What about for you, Jay? Well, how would you encapsulate your music?
Yeah, so I had originally graduated from the U of M with a jazz degree. I got a jazz voice degree. And then I spent a lot of time writing my own music under the name Jason Willows. But that mainly was me playing electric guitar and, writing my kind of grungy, angsty phase kind of stuff.
Right.
So I released an album under that name in the last year, but I was looking to try something new, and I was fortunate enough to take composition with Liam Barry, who I really like studying with. So we've discussed, writing music for video games, which has been really fun to tackle, but lately we've been writing for full score orchestra, which has been really awesome.
So I'm sensing a bit of a theme between the both of you, which is that composition is something that was sort of a second thought to your creative sort of inclinations. How do you think that working in composition, Jay, has been informed by your work previously working in jazz and in songwriting?
Yeah, that's a good point. I honestly think it's kind of a whole new world trying to figure out what exactly I want to write for orchestra, because a lot of the music I write, as I say, is like trying to be Radiohead or something like that, where this was really trying to embrace, the orchestra spirit. And fortunate enough, we get to do read-throughs with orchestras and those kinds of things. So I get the opportunity to write for orchestra where I really wouldn't have gotten the opportunity before.
That's you're citing some very orchestral sort of acts in a Radiohead, or I'm even thinking about the Dessner brothers in bands like The National, who have these sort of same arrangement ideas. How do you think your songwriting and your approach to music, Keira, has informed the way that you write for classical piano now?
Spending countless hours just jamming to pop songs, just me and my piano. It has pushed me to think about almost the structural approach I take to composition. Because for pop songs, it's verse, chorus, whatever, pre-chorus, bridge. And then classical, I could almost break free of my own constraints. As one of my professors, Neil Wiesenthal, says, there are no rules. Everything is a draft until you die.
Nice. That's a good axiom. That's a good axiom to live by. What's it like, Keira, working on your music in an environment like CMU, a smaller school, maybe some different advantages as compared to larger post-secondary institutions. What's that environment like to create your music with?
I would say the smaller class sizes makes it so much more fun and easy to find somebody to collaborate with, and I could just chase somebody down in the common space and be like, hey, do you want to hear a piece? And I get such good feedback, and who knows, maybe even more inspiration. And I find that a small environment with like this, even just stepping into practice rooms, even just stepping into the practice room spaces, I can just hear people practicing and automatically get inspiration from that.
That's a wonderful way to approach collaboration. I mean, and you've got experience, Jay, at a different post-secondary institution. What is it like to compare your experience at the University of Manitoba to now writing music and studying composition at CMU?
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I'm actually in the music therapy program.
Oh, wonderful.
And I'm doing composition as well. So the difference between studying jazz performance and music therapy is surprisingly very stark, where jazz performance, the degree I had at U of M, was very focused on traditional jazz. So you're learning like bebop and all the main sorts of Miles Davis, those kinds of things, where now we're learning about, empathy, therapy, all those kinds of other aspects and how to apply music to that. And then I'm just kind of throwing composition in all that jazz.
A well-rounded sort of an approach, a holistic sort of an approach maybe to your music. What's all going into, actually, why don't I ask you this? Tell me a bit about the work that audiences can expect to hear of yours on Wednesday, Jay.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So this song was originally called For Ellen, because I wrote it for the titular character of the film Nosferatu that came out. The female in the film, I felt like she deserved her own theme. I'm sure she has her own theme in the film as well, but I decided to write her one first for piano, and then I was inspired to try to write for a whole orchestra. And yes, if they come on Wednesday, they'll hear my friend Kaya perform gallantly my piece.
Wonderful. What about for you, Keira? What do people get to hear of yours on Wednesday morning?
On Wednesday morning, people get to hear a solo piano piece performed by my friend Michiko. This piece is called Hope of the Black Hole, and the whole purpose of me writing this, composing this, was to encapsulate how it feels going through personal loss and grief. The main feature of this piece, it's supposed to be melancholic, and it's very sparse in terms of highs and lows, because the hope of the black hole represents the middle, almost that void you feel going through that loss, where there's highs and lows, and you can have highs and lows very simultaneously going through grief.
Right. No, there's all these range of emotions that come with all of that. It must be incredible to try and speak to a performer that is debuting your work about not just how to execute this piece that you've written, but also the feelings that are associated with it. What's it like to work with this pianist on your work, and how do you put it together?
Well, I kind of put my work together just very spontaneously. I was actually walking to a common space to do my homework, and all of a sudden I just come up with a melody, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to work right now. I have to get this down while it's in my head.
Yeah.
So I ended up running to a practice room instead and just composing down what comes out of me. Yeah, just playing it, recording it, and just almost scrambling to get it on the score paper so I have all the ideas coming in. And I was like, okay, I have this piece down, and I brought it to Liam Barry, who I'm also studying composition with. I brought it to him. I was like, hey, here's this piano piece, and then he gives me feedback on it, and then I applied a feedback, and I'm like, okay, well, I definitely want to get this piece performed. So I actually just reached out to Michiko, because I have actually worked with her before, and yeah, just through networking, and yeah. So I just found Michiko in the hallway. I was like, hey, I have a piano piece. Would you be interested? She said yes, and yeah. So it was all just through networking, and
Wow.
It all kind of just happened.
It's, again, speaking to that sort of nature of being at CMU and that sort of collaborative environment that you have. What about for you, Jay? What's it like to put together a piece with another student?
Yeah. Well, she's a talented music therapist of her own right, and just happens to also be a fantastic classical piano player. To be perfectly honest, I've been sort of focused on the orchestra read-through,
Yeah.
and it's my first time orchestrating, which for those listening out on the radio, it's when you break the piece into little parts for everyone to play so that everyone has just one sheet of paper, not 15.
Yeah.
But when I went back to the piano piece, I actually had to kind of like reincorporate all of the ideas that I had for the orchestra. Lots of dynamic and articulation, things have changed and slurs and sorts of stuff. So I sent her a revised version a few days ago. I was like, I hope this is okay to like just like add on to all of the beautiful work she's been doing. But yeah, it's been cool to try to focus on something more performance with somebody we're usually just working on therapy stuff with.
Absolutely. Before Keira, you were talking a little bit about how classical music can help to break these sorts of expectations that you have for yourself as far as writing your own music. What role do you think classical music, and I'm going to use air quotes here, classical music, has to speak to the human condition in 2025? That's a big kind of galaxy brain sort of question for you this morning.
For me personally, I think that classical music is like poetry without words, poetry without its voice. When poetry can't speak, music sings. And what I mean by that is when I can't find words to express my feelings, I just put it into a melody. As I was saying with Hope of a Black Hole, it's about grief, and I couldn't even describe my grief in words. Like, I was actually thinking about it before I came here. I was like, oh, how am I going to describe my piece if I can barely find the words? Because even when Michiko was asking me, like, she's a really, really talented pianist, and she wanted to know what it was about so she can encapsulate it how I would want it to.
Right.
And I was like, I can't find the words to describe it. So that's what really scared me about doing this. But anyways, other than that, I would say that how classical music breaks me from my own constraints is it just encourages me to just get it out. What happens, and this piece will go where the emotions go. It's almost like a wave.
Yeah, I love that sort of riding of the wave imagery. You're so full of such evocative sort of ways to describe your music for somebody who's saying that they're struggling to describe their music this morning. It's fantastic. Jay, maybe we can answer a similar question, which is why use orchestration? Why use this medium to describe your thoughts in the year 2025?
Yeah, just adding to what you said, that's beautiful. And you totally used that idea of a wave before. And as for my writing, I had really associated a lot of my music with this. Jason Willows is my artist name, sound. So I was just really trying to figure out what else I could write. I'd had a bit of a writer's block, dare I say it. So being able to just download an app called MuseScore, which is a free app. This isn't a plug. And just be able to plunk notes in and with my headphones and be able to write like 15 pieces, some of them quite small, over the span of 6 months, allowed me to express myself. And yeah, a lot of fears of gestures broadly at everything, that sort of anxiety that we're all feeling, having a way to channel that into what ended up being a song about Nosferatu, apparently.
Wow. Yeah, sure, because you're not sure where that sort of wave that Keira was talking about before is going to go. Maybe a brief last question to the both of you. What do you think your composition what form will your composition take in the years ahead as you leave CMU? What role do you think composing will play in your life, and how would you like that life to look? Maybe we'll start with you on that one, Jay.
Well, this has definitely got me a little bit on the bug for composition. We've plugged Liam a few times, but he's also sent me an invite to go to Winnipeg Jams, which is a games jam where you meet for a weekend and try to create a video game, and you can enter as a composer if you'd like. So basically it's kind of opened my eyes that I don't have to just write songs for my trio that are all about me or how I see things. They can be about a variety of things. I also would really love to incorporate some strings into my next record or next music project, because writing for strings is a heck of a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Keira, do you have the bug for composition as well now?
Oh, yes, I do. I plan to use composition to narrate my story without paper.
Wow.
I narrate it through sound.
Okay.
To create a poetry book without the words, and it's going to be about basically what I'm going through in my life. My dream is to actually become a music therapist, and I'm currently in the music program to hone in on my skills so I could get up to that goal.
Yeah.
And as an aspiring music therapist, I think that composition would really help me in the field if I do decide to join it. And yeah, just like almost narrate the story of my life as my life goes on, as my crazy life goes on. I could channel those crazy stories into the crazy compositions.
Incredible. Incredible. You can hear the works of Keira Medina and Jay Buchanan this Wednesday at 11:30 at Canadian Mennonite University's Laudamus Auditorium. Jay and Keira, thank you so much for joining us in the Classic 107 studios to tell us more about your work.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me.